Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Come look at my art. Hi, I'm Viola. I'm an artist. I'm 22 years old and I'm an architecture student for people that don't actually know me. And the reason why I started to create this channel and why I'm starting all of those videos is because I'm an artist, or at least I like to call myself one, and I love art. I love documenting my process, and I thought, why not make this something that I can turn my head to when years pass and see the progress I've been doing. I started a Bible and Quran collection that I'm gonna explain later, and this is the reason why I'm doing this video. And I'm gonna explain also why I'm doing this video in English is because I don't want to limit myself to smaller audiences, when in fact I can have other people that love art from across the world see this video if they will, and be able to understand what I'm actually saying. So yes, I'm now gonna explain what I'm actually doing and how I'm actually doing it, why this collection is so special to me, and how the idea got in my head. To be honest, this collection wasn't programmed, or I didn't know I would start this collection until I started it. And the reason why that is because I was scrolling on Pinterest and I saw a Bible cover that was so pretty that I wanted to immediately draw it. So the Bible that I'm actually talking about is this one, and fun fact, this is not on the progress videos because at the time I didn't know I was gonna make a YouTube channel and a YouTube video about my art progress. So this isn't on the progress, but the other 4 Bibles are, and I'm gonna also film the other 5 Qurans that I'm gonna make in the future. Fast forward 1 year after I drew this, I was scrolling on Pinterest and I saw another Bible cover, and I started to understand that there are endless Bible covers and endless Qurans, so why not make them as a concept? And the concept is that life changed so much it reflects on art. This is something we know as artists, and this is something we've learned to adapt to. But why art in the medieval times was so special and it took like years to create is something that fascinates me, and I just wanted it to reflect this on my drawings. I know realism, even though those pieces aren't dependent on realism. This is the concept, and I need to do realism on those. So this is why I've created them, and this is why I'm gonna make 2 special videos, one that shows Bibles, this one, and another that shows Qurans later on, because I know that will take me a lot of time. I started this video as I said in 2023, not the video but the progress, and later on it took me like 5 months, even though I said it would take me like I think from October to December. It took me from October to April, so here we are. I spent a lot of time doing this, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, because I had a lot of fun. So yeah. And by the way, I'm gonna explain a lot of technical problems, a lot of history related fun facts about those manuscripts, those Bibles, because some of them are manuscript pages and some of them are Bibles. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. So guys, this is the Codex Aureus of Saint Emmeram. The reason why it's called like this, it is because it was created for a saint called Saint Emmeram Abbey. The term Aureus comes from the word gold in Latin, and it was created before or around 1700 AD. AD stands for Anno Domini in Latin, and it literally means after Christ. So this was one of the first Bibles that had such intricate design and such detail inside and also outside. When you see the outside, you don't think that when you open the pages it would have a lot of detail, but it actually does. The outside is covered in emeralds, sapphires, and all of the gold that you can find. When you open the pages, you see a lot of Tyrant purple, which is created when you crush 10,000 seashells, and this was really hard to get back then. And also had a lot of pigments like lapis lazuli, which was a pigment that it was created in Afghanistan and it was really hard to ship, and all of the travel expenses and everything. And it was also covered in gold manuscripts. So when you see this Bible, you think that someone that has it has a lot of power. This is why Charles the Bold, one of the rulers of the 14th century, wanted to have it. And he actually did for a little period of time, but right now it is located in the State Library of Bavaria in Munich. So yeah, this is one of the collections there, and it is really, really beautiful. So if you like to see it, go and check that out. From imperial opulence, now we drift into the mists of medieval Ireland, a land of deep spirituality, wild weather, and monks with truly incredible handwriting. The Stowe Missal was a small liturgical book originally written in the 9th century, filled with prayers, blessings, and rituals, used by traveling monks, but what makes it remarkable isn't just its content, it's how it was treated. This book became a kumdach, a shrine in itself. Around the 11th century, it was placed into a metal case adorned with silver and intricate engravings. It became a book you didn't just read, you wore it. People believed it had healing powers. It was carried into battle to protect warriors, placed near the sick to bring recovery, and passed down like a sacred relic through generations. And get this, some pages include instructions for healing livestock with holy water. That's right, a medieval vet guide hidden in the middle of scripture. Imagine a monk blessing a sheep with a prayer from a silver-covered book. It sounds wild, but that was daily life in Christian Ireland. Back then, monks lived in beehive-shaped stone huts, spent their days farming, and their nights illuminating text by flickering candlelight. Books like this weren't just sacred, they were magical. You didn't own one unless you had a very good reason or very powerful protection. Fun fact, the case it was placed, it was so revered that later generations decorated it even further, layering new meaning onto old words. This wasn't just preservation, it was evolution, like a sacred time capsule being recharged with every passing century. Fast forward to the 19th century France, a time when lace, revolution, and a dash of divine luxury filled the air. And in the midst of this mix of elegance and upheaval, one woman decided to make a statement of faith, beauty, and let's face it, she François, Latin pour Madame Galwa, sorry if I pronounced it wrong. A handcrafted, illuminated prayer book created between 1839 and 1842. But don't let the prayer book label fool you. This wasn't just about devotions and psalms. This was a book that screamed luxury, exclusivity, and status. It was less about turning pages in solemn reflection and more about flaunting your wealth and taste and, of course, your devotion. While the rest of the world was being swept up in the age of printing presses, Madame Galwa opted for something far more personal and high maintenance. A custom-made manuscript, hand-lettered in delicate script, it was dusted with gold leaf and adorned with pastel hues of saints, flowers, and divine imagery. This wasn't just a book, it was a treasure trove of tiny miracles painted on every page. You could practically smell the wealth emanating from it. These prayer books weren't just for praying, they were the 19th century equivalent of haute couture. For the upper class, this book were a social flex. Picture this, the rich elite women of Paris weren't just interested in having their names in the guest list at the best salons. They wanted their books to be the talk of the gathering. Her François and Latin were less about faith and more about faith in flair.
You didn't open this book during Mass, you opened it in the middle of a dinner party to show everyone just how cultured and religious you were. It was the spiritual equivalent of walking into a room wearing a dress that costs more than your house. Speaking of dinner parties, did you know that some of these books were small enough to fit into the fashionable reticules of the time? That's right, this prayer book was designed to be tucked into the tiny gold-trimmed handbags that women carried around like prized possessions. Talk about making a statement. You didn't just reach for a prayer book during a quiet moment of devotion. You whipped it out at a soiree and casually flashed it, letting the gold leaf shimmer in the candlelight. It was the ultimate flex. I'm holy, I'm stylish, and yes, I have a custom prayer book to prove it. Of course, in a time of political upheaval and change, these books weren't just about showing off. They were also incredibly personal. For Madame Galwa, this book was her connection to both her faith and her position in society. It was a way for her to express her devotion, but also a way to stably broadcast that she was part of the new, more powerful bourgeois class that was making waves in post-revolutionary France. Her prayer book was a luxurious object, an intimate spiritual tool, and a cultural artifact all rolled into one. Each page of her François Latin was like a mini canvas, gilded edges, delicate floral borders, and holy figures surrounded by lush symbolism. This kind of art that would make you want to spend hours just flipping through the pages, not for the words themselves, but for the sheer pleasure of the visual experience. There's something about the way the soft pastel colors contrast with the gold that gives the book an almost dreamlike quality, as if the world inside it was a little more beautiful, a little more elevated than the outside. This wasn't just a book, it was a statement about who you were. If you owned a book like this, you weren't just a person of faith. You were someone who lived in the world of luxury, beauty, and aristocratic charm. It said, I can afford art, history, and the divine all in one tiny leather-bound package. And with a book like that, who needed the rest of the world? By the time the 1840s rolled around, the book had become more than just a tool for religious practice. It had become a status symbol, the kind of item that turned heads at any social gathering. It's hard to imagine a more elegant piece of Christian art. In fact, her François Latin wasn't just for the devout, it was for the devout with taste, a reminder that in the 19th century your faith could be just as fabulous as your wardrobe. So, as you gaze upon this masterpiece, remember, it wasn't just about the prayer inside, it was about the world it inhabited. The world of Parisian salons, the world of high society, the world of exquisite craftsmanship, and of course, the world of making sure everyone knew how divinely stylish you were. Step into the world of the 19th century Armenia, where faith and art fused in ways that still make us gasp today. Here, in the land of the ancient mountains and rich turbulent history, we find the Plaide de Reliure de Evangelie Armenian, an exquisite gospel binding that's as much as a statement to artistry as it is to spirituality. Now this isn't just any old book cover. Oh no, this is a showstopper, a divine work of art that serves as both as a shield and as a symbol, a gateway to both the sacred and the magnificent. We're talking about a gospel book cover so beautifully crafted it could make you believe the world itself was created with as much as precision and love as this metalwork. The stunning gospel binding was created using hammered silver and features intricate repoussé. That's a fancy word for a technique used of hammering metal to create raised designs. These raised figures of saints and Christ don't just sit there looking pretty, they're giving you an almost 3D experience, as if the figures are going to leap off the page and into your life. The level of detail is mind-boggling. Every curve of the saint's face, every fold of Christ's robes speaks of devotion, artistry, and sheer craftsmanship. But why? Why put so much effort into a cover? Well, because in Armenian books, especially religious texts, were often more than just things to read. They were treasures that sometimes seen as magical and almost divine. They were sacred objects to be preserved and protected at all costs, and often they were even buried with their owners. This wasn't just about practicality, it was about respect, about reverence, and about turning a simple gospel into a precious family heirloom. Armenia was the first nation to adopt Christianity as the state religion back in 301 AD, which means the Armenian church has had a very long time to perfect the art of gospel craftsmanship. By the 19th century, these books weren't just revered for their spiritual significance, they were revered for their beauty, their art, their soul. The Armenians were masters at blending their Christian faith with the rich visual culture of region, which draws influences from both Byzantine and Persian traditions. These books were living pieces of history, an intersection of culture, devotion, and identity. The silver repoussé binding was not just for protection, it was a statement. This was the ultimate armor for the Word of God. Think of it as a divine fortress, your soul's most sacred text wrapped into a glimmering, unbreakable shell. A piece of art that would make even the harshest invaders think twice before attempting to harm it. In a time when the Ottoman Empire ruled Armenia, these books were often hidden, buried underground, or protected by the people with their lives. But it wasn't just about physical protection. The design itself was a statement of resilience and faith. You see, Armenia wasn't just a peaceful heaven during this time, it was a land of constantly under threat, a land fighting to preserve its culture and its Christianity. The gospel bindings were more than just beautiful, they were survivors, just like the people who held them. The silver embossed with sacred figures served as a reminder that faith could outlast even the harshest of circumstances. The pages inside these books were often as breathtaking as the cover itself, with bright red ink, finely hand-cut initials, and stunning floral marginalia. Every page was a work of art in its own right. The hand-drawn illustration told stories of saints and miracles, and the words themselves were often written with a delicacy that seemed to speak directly to the soul. You didn't just read these books, you experienced them. Now let's get into something more interesting. These gospel books were often seen as family relics, passed down through generations like treasure heirlooms. It wasn't uncommon for families to place these books under their pillows for protection or hide them during times of war. They weren't just religious objects, they were symbols of the family enduring faith, their connection to their ancestors, and their resistance against forces trying to erase their identity. And here's where it gets really fascinating. The Plader d'Evangélie Armenian was not just a thing of beauty for the rich. These bindings were part of the fabric of everyday Armenian life. For centuries, Armenian families would gather around these books, read from them, and offer prayers as a community. These weren't just showpieces for the elite. They were treasures shared among the people, representing their collective struggle, their shared faith, and their communal heritage. If you think about it, the silver binding almost serves as a metaphor for the Armenian people themselves, strong, enduring, and covered in intricate beauty, yet constantly tested and pushed to the limits. This gospel wasn't just a book, it was a shield for the soul, a reflection of the struggles and triumphs of the Armenian people wrapped up in silver and sacred stories. So, as you admire this beautiful metallic artwork, remember that it's not just a book cover, it's a chapter in a much larger story, a story of survival, resilience, and beauty, a story that spans generations, borders, and centuries. This gospel binding may have been designed to protect sacred words, but it also serves to protect the culture, history, and spirit of the Armenian people themselves. Ah, yes. Here's where things get even more fascinating. Let's talk about the weight of this magnificent gospel binding. This wasn't some dainty, delicate little book you could easily slip in your bag. No, this gospel cover, crafted from hammered silver, was hefty in the most impressive way possible. Imagine this, if someone were to try to steal it, they probably have to put it down after just a few feet. Why? Because it was so heavy, it was practically impossible to carry off unnoticed. This wasn't just a book, it was a fortress, a symbol of divine protection, so solid and weighty it could have been mistaken for armor. This was one of those rare sacred items that was far too burdensome to steal for any average thief. It was designed to not only protect the word of God, but also ensure that anyone attempting to walk off with it would be swiftly caught in the act, or more likely drop it before getting too far. In a time of hardship and struggle, this gospel cover wasn't just a thing of divine beauty, it was a statement of faith that could withstand anything, a testament to the fact that even when everything else is lost, faith, like art, can endure. Picture this. It's 5:09 and you're walking down the cobbled streets of Florence, the heart of the Renaissance. The air is filled with the scent of fresh paint and the city hums with the energy of intellectuals, artists, and thinkers. Among them is a man named Monte di Giovanni, an illuminator whose talents would leave a lasting mark on history. And what was he working on? A manuscript so lavish, so magnificent, it would eventually find its way into the hands of the Vatican. Now, this wasn't just any book. This was a showstopper, a true Renaissance masterpiece that combined all the grandeur of classical antiquity with the deep religious fervor of the time. If this book were a movie, it would have been the Oscar-winning Best Picture of its era. Imagine the very essence of the Renaissance captured into every page. Gold leaf, intricate designs, and enough religious symbolism to make you feel like you've stepped into the heavens themselves. The manuscript Giovanni created wasn't just about reading the Holy Scriptures. It was about making a statement. This book wasn't just for the average priest to read on a Sunday morning. It was for someone important, someone with serious money and a thirst for prestige. Probably a cardinal, maybe even a high-ranking diplomat. Whoever it was, they weren't just going to flip through this manuscript, they were going to show it off. So, what made this manuscript so special? Let's dive in. First, Giovanni didn't just write it in ink and call it a day. He went all out, gold leaf, delicate script, and the kind of the illustrations that could have easily been mistaken for paintings. Saints, angels, and biblical stories fill the pages, each one painstakingly drawn, colored, and decorated to perfection. The figures are so finely detailed, it's as if they could step off the page and start speaking to you. What makes this manuscript special isn't just the art, it's the voice hiding between the lines. Medieval scribes had a habit of writing secret messages in the margins. Some left complaints like, "My hand hurts, I'm so tired, send wine." Others embedded secret codes, doodles, or political satire. Fun fact, in another 15th century manuscript, a monk wrote, "Thank God this is over," on the last page. The Renaissance had masterpieces, sure, but also burnout. Let's talk about the materials though. The manuscript parchment wasn't just any old paper you'd pick up at the store. It was made from the finest animal skins, stretched and prepared to perfection. But here's a fun tidbit. The animal skins were so meticulously prepared, they could be written on both sides. Imagine the effort it took to get parchment so smooth and durable, you could practically write the entire Bible on it and still have space for some angels and a gold trim. Now let's talk about the colors used in the manuscript. Giovanni didn't just grab any old pigment. He used lapis lazuli, a stone so rare and expensive it was more valuable than gold, to create the blue on the pages. And red, well, that came from vermilion, which was made from crushed cinnabar, a mineral so expensive that only the richest people could afford it. So when you look at the pages, you're seeing not just art, but an investment. This manuscript could probably pay off a small estate, or maybe even a small army. Okay, let's get back to the real fun stuff, the grand reveal. This manuscript wasn't just about the sacred text, it was also about showing off. It wasn't tucked away in some dusty church corner. The wealthy patrons who commissioned these books knew the value of the good social flex. This manuscript wasn't just for personal use. It was for impressing guests, for flaunting wealth, and for making sure everyone knew you were important. When you walked into the salon holding this book, you were practically saying, I have money, power, and a divine connection. Try to beat that. And here's the fun fact that might actually make you chuckle. Some manuscripts like this were so expensive they were actually stolen and held for ransom. But here's the twist, these manuscripts were so heavy they were practically impossible to steal, as I said before. Imagine trying to sneak away with a book that was larger than a suitcase and weighed about as much as a small boulder. Good luck with that. Who knew manuscripts could be the medieval version of a modern-day alarm system? By the time Giovanni manuscript was finished, it was more than just a book. It was a symbol of power, a work of art, and a spiritual treasure all rolled into one. It reflected everything the Renaissance stood for, the merging of beauty, faith, and intellectual achievement. And even though the manuscript was meant for someone with deep pockets, it wasn't just about the money, it was about legacy. This book was going to be passed down, revered, and possibly even become a part of history. When you held this manuscript, you didn't just hold a book, you held a piece of the Renaissance itself. So next time you pick up a modern book, just think, how different would it be if I were reading this in 509 with gold leaf, priceless pigments, and the power to impress the most influential people in Europe? Books in the Renaissance were a little less about reading and a lot about more shaping history.
Hi guys, if you've got into this part of the video, well, I guess you've got into the end. And I'm not gonna take a lot of time from you, so let's just go through it, and I'm gonna show you the final product of all of the Bibles. Starting first with the Codex of Saint Emmeram. I'm not gonna say it's my favorite because it's not, but I like it a lot because why would I draw it in the first place? The thing that I love most in this drawing is the part of the texture. I love the texture because it gives a lot of goldness and a lot of shimmeriness from like all the emeralds and all the jewelry pieces. So yeah, this is what I like from this piece, and I actually love that this was my first one and I didn't even know that it was going to become a series. The second one, which is kind of my favorite, a lot of people don't like it like from the other ones, but like I love it. I don't know why, but it just gives me a good feeling. The second one is the Codex of Stowe Missal, and I love this one. The thing that I love from this one is actually the rose pendant, which is something like a quartz. But anyways, it just gives me a good feeling. I think it's the perfect size, and I think like it's so pretty. I don't know why people don't like it that much from the others, but I actually love it. Like if you see all the details, even though through time it has gotten so rusty, I still love it because this was metally silvery in the beginning. The third one, which I actually know that a lot of people love, is the Her François from Madame et Galwa. Sorry that I mispronounced it, but it's so hard to remember. And this is one of the pieces that everybody loves and that says that like it's a big piece. And actually it took me a lot of time because it was like 5 a.m. when I ended it. I was going on a school trip and it honestly gotten me a lot of time to end, but not as much as the others. The part that I loved drawing was the God and the angels part, which was the part that wasn't repetitive like the other ones, because the other ones are just details like this is the same part as this other one, and like the whole middle part. Actually, that was really fun to draw, I'm not lying, but I really love this one. Like this is my second favorite, and I know this is the first piece that people loved when I showed them from like all of the Bibles. Even though every piece is beautiful, I know this is the one that people love. And the fourth one is the Armenian Bible, which I actually don't remember the name, to be honest, because it was really a long title, but I like this one. I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but I know my mom likes it. And yeah, Like, this was actually the one that got me through excruciating pain. Like, I hated it. I'm sorry. I love drawing all of this, but I actually hated this process because all of the work was repetitive, and the part that I loved drawing most was the Saint Mary part, because, yeah, why couldn't you love drawing that one? And the fifth piece that I loved was the Monte di Giovanni, and to be honest, this made me blind. The Monte di Giovanni was so excruciating. I cannot even explain, because like the calligraphy, well, you cannot deny it for yourself when you see it, like all the calligraphy and all of the details, because this has scenes for every thing that happened in the Bible, and it's like a calendar when it shows you all the prayer hours. But actually, yeah, this was so tiring, and when I got to this point, I was happy that I was done. Not happy in a way that like I can never do it, because I'm gonna start the other series with Qurans, but I'm so proud. And well, if other people don't like it, I don't care. I'm so proud. Actually, I'm really proud. So yes, guys, this is it, and I hope you all enjoyed it, because I did, and this gave me a lot of satisfaction. This boosted my tolerance for like drawing and patience, and I'm really happy to see that I did this, even though it passed a lot of time. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you again.